Afternoon everyone, I figured we'd do a little bit of a roundup of all of my own personal projects because there's quite a few going on. Regular viewers of the channel will know what the hell I'm talking about and where I am with stuff, but some of you don't. So I thought maybe we'd run through everything I'm working on for myself, my own gear, my own little projects and bits and pieces like that. So we'll start with the Bassman 135, which was the Christmas special 2024. Remember, I bought this, it was an absolute rat toilet, literally, and I resurrected it back to lovely working condition with the help of some of you guys and some friends in the industry. Got this thing up and running, and it is a wonderful, wonderful bass head. It really is. It has, however, developed a problem in that the tone stack on the second channel has stopped working. Particularly the treble control itself just has no effect whatsoever. So at some point in an upcoming video we will get into this. Apart from that though, it's a pretty killer sounding amp. The 6L6s do need replacing. I've got many hours on them now. One of them has started to drift more than others, so I will be revalving this at some point. But I've got a good number of hours on this now. I play it regularly, but it does need a bit of a service, a bit of a going through. I have neglected it somewhat, only because it was essentially a new build after the resurrection. So it's probably time we get stuck into this at some point, go through it, and get it exactly back on top form. This is the 100-watt black panel Bassman build that I've been doing in a recent series of videos. As you can see, it is now in the head shell, sans faceplate, which I still need to get around to designing and ordering. Testing's going well, quite happy with it. Improvements have been made, but until my new bass cab has arrived, I'm not really doing any final tonal tweaks to it, but you can see it sits in. This is in fact the original head shell for the Bassman 135. The Bassman 135 sits in another original 135 head shell, which was donated to me by a lovely viewer. This original shell we had repaired and recovered by Michael at Modulus. I think it was actually Steve that did it, but there you go. And so that's going to house this. So two original head shells with two really cool Bassman builds inside. But yeah, it's coming on quite nicely. I do like it. And I can't wait to show you what both sound like in the final rig. This is officially it's the Deep Riff Mark 1 bass head. Years and years and years ago I used to do a 200-watt bass head that I called the Deep Riff. Cool name, right? And they weren't very popular because they are naturally very bloody heavy, which is fine, you know, and bass players want, you know, a bass amp that's this size and does 1,000 watts. So, but, you know, the market seems to be changing. Anyway, I didn't actually have one for myself, but what I did do a number of years ago was I built a couple of 200-watt super leads for a local player, and then I had enough bits left over to build one for myself, and that's what this was. So it was kind of like a major, but with a super lead preamp. Absolute killer thing. Obviously completely unusable for guitar because it's just brutally loud. I mean, the guy who's got them, the two that I built for him, still gigs them because it does what he wants, and it's just a ridiculous thing. It's stupid. Love it. Crazy in a good way. But anyway, the third one, which was this one, I then converted to Deep Riff spec. But it's just for my own personal thing, just for fun. I will, at some point, stick it in a Rift head shell and do the correct faceplate on it, because I've currently got the 4-hole super lead faceplate on it, but it's internally it is the Deep Riff Mark 1. So I do play it every now and again, and I do enjoy it. It's got a really cool sound, but it's neither finished nor unfinished. It sits in a state of, it could work if I wanted. I mean, electrically it works and it's fine, just cosmetically it needs finishing off and probably is in need of a damn good service. But it sits out the front, and every now and again I plug into it and just relish the beauty of 4 KT88s for bass. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful sound. So yeah, so that's Deep Riff Mark 1. I guess you could call it a post-production prototype, but it is what it is. This is the silver panel ultralinear distributed load super reverb that I bought from Noisy Josh for 200 quid, and I haven't done much to this in a while. If you guys remember the strip down video that I did on Boxing Day last year, we discovered that the chassis was obviously pretty rusty, and I decided to actually get the chassis zinc plated, which I have done, and it's come out really well. So that is pretty much ready to start the rebuild process. When I get onto it, I don't know when that will be. Who knows? But that's kind of where we are with it. It's come out nice. Yeah, it's come out better than I thought it would. Some of the rust has started to eat into the chassis a little bit, but thankfully that's now stopped. Lovely zinc plate, so we can get that rebuilt. I am just going to rebuild it in standard spec because, you know, it's still a vintage amplifier, whether you like them or not. Don't know. They still sound pretty killer compared to some of the naff that's out there on the market today. So I'd much rather have one of those in tip-top working order than an old crusty one that needs a lot of work with a warp board and all the issues that those trash fenders usually come with. So yeah, we'll get this one up and running at some point, but you'll have to keep an eye out on the channel for any updates as and when they come. This is the Trainwreck build. I've been building a Trainwreck Express in the JTM 45 chassis with a different layout. We got this thing up and running, and it sounds killer, but the noise floor is quite high. It's very unstable, as a lot of Trainwrecks are, and I've been working my way through it. However, for a reason that I can't yet reveal, I had to remove the output transformer. So that's currently missing, and you will find out why in the Rift Midsummer Special coming in July as to why that's been removed. So until that gets reinstalled back onto this, I can't tell you much more. Can't do anything else with it, but it is coming along, and we will get more progress on this at some point. But it is a personal project for me. Although I will eventually be selling this to one of you guys, I will be putting it up for sale. So once it is finally done, and if any of you are insane enough to want a Trainwreck Express build, they do nothing but full bore craziness, which is just wonderful, but it's not a home amp. So bear that in mind. Anyway, missing transformer, not going anywhere for the time being. And that's it really, just a quick roundup of my own personal projects and bits and pieces that I've got going on. There are some more Rift stuff in the works as well. Special projects, new models. Obviously, I've talked about it before, the Deep Riff Mark II is coming, but there's another amp we're launching first. Just trying to get all our ducks in a row to get that one done. Then the Deep Riff Mark II is coming. I know I've been saying this for a long time now, but the one in front of it is priority. So once that one is there and done, I can focus on getting the Mark II sorted. So those who really want to order one, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. I am sorry, but it's just the way it is. We will get there eventually. I've just got too much going on, and I keep taking on too much stuff. I'm a victim of my own success, I think, and I mean that in a good way, obviously, right? So that's the way it is. But hopefully you enjoyed that. A little bit of a roundup on bits and pieces. I do get asked a lot, you know, what's going on with this and how you're getting on with that and all that kind of stuff. So I've actually also got an old valve radio coming in for restoration. I haven't done one in a while, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I think it's an old H&V unit actually. I will look up the email and see what the exact model is, but I will show that on the channel. I don't really do radio restoration anymore. I just don't have time, and there's other people that obviously do it full time and they're dedicated to that, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate that. But you know, someone's asked me to get Grandad's old radio up and running. Why not? Let's see if we can help them out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Right, bonus footage time. This is the BMW race car. Some of you will remember where my friend Nick very kindly blew the engine up last year. So We've stuck with a 6-cylinder as a replacement. We've gone down to the 2-litre to bring it down a class and hopefully be more competitive. So junkyard motor's gone in, and it's got a few wiring gremlins. As you can see, I have slowly been working through all of the problems, trying to track down the main running problems. This is a schematic for the throttle bodies, the electronic throttle body, with 4 potentiometers inside, as you can see there, and they're meant to be redundancy, but the ECU, this box here, is so picky about a clean signal coming back from those pots that anything other than perfect, it just puts the car into limp mode, which is what it's doing, and it's becoming a bit of a nuisance now. So I've slowly been isolating and tracking down, and the 6 wires that come back, so pins, the ones I've circled, 9, 20, 10, 19, 14, 16, 43, 44, sorry, that's 8 pins, isn't it? Yeah. They're the ones I'm going to be replacing the pins in the actual connector itself to the ECU, because there's actually signal on all of the wires up to the connector, but the ECU doesn't read them sometimes, and it's actually loose pin. The connectors are actually quite loose. Problem is, have I just found the head of the snake? And there's more problems lurking on. This has been going on for a couple of weeks now. Every day after work I come up here and I fight this thing, and it's becoming a bit of a problem. I'm now 2.5 weeks away from this car's first race, supposedly, and I need to get this sorted. The ultimate solution is to order a brand new wiring harness from BMW. It's about 650 quid, probably about $800. They are in stock in Germany, and in theory they can get me one in time, but if this fix now doesn't work, I'm going to replace those 8 pins, then I'm going to have to pull the trigger and get that new wiring loom here so I can get it installed in the car and go racing. So that's what I'm going to do. Wish me luck. Bad news, I'm afraid. I'm just looking at the diagnostics, and oh, come on, behave. If I can get this to come down, I'll show you. But there's no signal volts on engine throttle 1, so that hasn't fixed it. I've replaced the throttle body. I've gone through and checked continuity. I've now replaced the pins in the connector and still no resolution. If I start it now, it will run like an absolute bag of crap. So let's get in there. Sorry. Yeah, look, no. Damn. That really was my last hope. So it's going to be a new loom because there's clearly a problem somewhere down in there, and I just don't have time to remove the loom, go through everything one at a time. When, you know, if I'm putting the loom out, I'm going to have to put the old one back in. I might as well put a new one in that I know is good. Oh, this is awful. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Right. Better spend some money.